Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining us. Today, I've got a story that isn't filled with drama or grand gestures. It's a story about slow shifts, quiet realizations, and the painful unraveling of something you thought was solid. ***. My name is Ethan, and after spending 45 years on this earth, I've learned something that most people never want to admit out loud. No one wants to feel like a burden to the person they love. When you're in love, your goal is to be their peace, their safety, not the reason they feel overwhelmed or closed off. You want to be the person they lean into, not the one they tiptoe around. But somewhere along the way, that dynamic changed for me and my wife Lena. She started pulling away. Subtly at first, then more noticeably. And when I finally confronted her, trying to understand what was happening, she looked me in the eyes and said something I wasn't prepared to hear. I just want to be alone for a while. So I gave her what she asked for. Gave her space. But I don't think either of us anticipated what that would actually feel like. To understand how we ended up in that cold silence, I have to take you back to how we began. The beginning. Lena and I met at a local book club. Nothing romantic at first. We were both quiet types. Introverted. Reserved. Our conversations were never loud or showy. Sometimes we'd sit in the same room for an hour and barely say a word to each other. But I always noticed her. She had a depth to her. A stillness that felt comforting, not awkward. We slowly built a friendship, one book discussion at a time. Over time we started dating. And honestly, I wasn't sure how it would go. Two introverts. Two people who lived largely in their own heads. Could have easily turned into isolation rather than connection. But it didn't. And that's what made it work. There were no expectations to be on all the time. No need to impress. If she needed quiet, I gave it. If I needed time to process before speaking, she understood. We didn't try to fix each other. We just accepted who the other person was. After 3 years of dating, we looked at each other one night and just knew. We could do this for the long haul. We got married in a small ceremony. No grand affair. Just the people who mattered. What we didn't realize then was how much would change. Not just in our surroundings but inside us. A shift. Once we moved in together, things became different. Not worse at first. Just real. Living with someone day in and day out is not the same as dating them. Habits collide. Silences stretch. The things you used to admire from a distance are now present in the background of every waking moment. I worked in banking. That meant early mornings, late nights, structure and stress. Lena was a freelance editor. Her days were looser, unstructured. She could spend hours curled up on the couch, red pen in hand, while I was wrestling deadlines and endless meetings. We weren't fighting. We weren't even arguing. But there was a subtle friction forming between our lives. We came home to the same space each night but carried completely different energies into the room. I was mentally exhausted. She was still wrapped in the fictional worlds she'd been editing all day. We adapted the best we could. We talked things through when it counted. We figured out how to respect each other's rhythms. It wasn't perfect, but it was working. Or at least I thought it was. The withdrawal. About 3 years into our marriage, I started noticing changes. Lena was out of the house more often. She had always been a homebody, someone who found comfort in solitude. But suddenly she was taking more walks, going on errands, and coming back with less to say. Her phone would buzz more frequently, and she'd answer with vague smiles or single-word replies. How was your day? It was fine. At first I chalked it up to a shift in routine. Maybe she needed stimulation, change. But the more time she spent out, the more emotionally absent she became when she was home. There wasn't any balance. It felt like she was escaping something, I just didn't know what. I didn't push. That wasn't our way. I waited, hoping she'd eventually open up. But weeks passed. Then a month. And I started to feel like I was orbiting around her. Close enough to see her, too far to touch. I tried to reconnect in small ways. Making her coffee in the morning. Leaving her notes. Asking about her day. Every gesture was met with a polite deflection. Asterisk thanks. I'm okay. Asterisk but she wasn't okay. And I knew it. The conversation. One night, she walked through the door and didn't even look in my direction. That was the breaking point. I asked her gently but directly, asterisk, Lena, what's going on? You're never home anymore. And when you are, you're not here. Is something wrong? Asterisk. She stared at the floor. Asterisk, no. Everything's fine. Asterisk. I pressed further. Asterisk, I know you. I can tell when something's off. Please talk to me. Asterisk. Finally, she looked up and said the words that stuck with me. Asterisk. I need to be alone for a while. Asterisk. First I was confused. Asterisk. Are you saying you want a break? Asterisk. She shook her head. Asterisk. No, not a break. I just need space to figure out how I'm feeling. I don't want to explain it. I just need time. Alone. Asterisk. And in that moment something inside me shifted. I stopped trying. She had already been pulling away for weeks. Her words just confirmed what I already suspected. She didn't want me near her right now. So I backed off. I stopped asking how she was doing. Stopped waiting up. Stopped wondering where she was going. I gave her the space she asked for. The silence. The house changed after that. We were still living together, but the emotional distance was unbearable. Conversations reduced to logistics. Asterisk. Did the rent go through? Asterisk asterisk. Your package arrived. Asterisk just the bare minimum. She seemed fine with it at first. But then, I started to notice her hesitations. She'd linger near me in the kitchen like she wanted to say something. Open her mouth, then close it again. Look away. And I didn't step in. I didn't ask. I was done pushing. Then one evening we passed each other in the hallway. Just like we'd done 100 times. But this time she stopped and said, asterisk. You haven't asked how I've been in weeks. Asterisk. I looked at her and said calmly, asterisk. You asked for space. I'm respecting that. Asterisk. She nodded slowly. Almost like she hadn't thought that far ahead. Then she turned and walked away. The breaking point. A week later she came to my door. I was staying in the guest room by then. She hovered in the doorway, looking uncertain. Asterisk, can we talk? Asterisk. I didn't move. I didn't lean in with warmth. I simply asked, asterisk, about what? Asterisk. She looked hurt. Asterisk. You've barely spoken to me. It feels like you've given up. Asterisk. And for the first time I spoke my truth. Asterisk. You asked for space and didn't tell me why. I didn't want to force you. What else was I supposed to do? Asterisk. She looked stunned. Like she didn't expect me to actually listen to her boundaries. Then she whispered something that broke me a little. Asterisk. I didn't think you'd take my words so literally. Asterisk. I stared at her. Asterisk. I stopped guessing a long time ago. If you wanted me close, you could have said so. Asterisk. She blinked rapidly, trying to hold back tears. Then she said the line that ended everything for me. Asterisk. I don't even know who you are anymore. Asterisk. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I was too tired. Too numb. I walked back into the guest room and closed the door behind me. The aftermath. That was it. We still lived under the same roof for a while. Passed each other in silence. No more attempts to connect. No more hallway pauses. Until one night, I walked past her room and heard her sobbing. And that's where the story pauses for now. Because healing doesn't always come with a grand finale or a cinematic resolution. Sometimes it's just a series of quiet steps. Away from the person you once called home. Thank you for listening. If this story resonates with you, or if you've ever been through something similar, feel free to share your thoughts below. You're not alone. Sometimes love doesn't leave in a storm. It drifts away quietly. Until next time.